From Plan A to Plan B, the world of Indy Ball just got a bit more interesting. Find out what we mean this week on the Indy Ball Report podcast. We're back, episode 247, slowly marching towards the quarter of a millennium mark, which is about how long this show feels to listen to, I'm sure. Hi, Ryan. How you doing?
You know, just making it feel like it's taking even longer. Definitely not helping that situation.
The slow march to rigor mortis continues on.
As always. Man, no. I was going to mention possibly getting a Christmas present for you. Not the time or place. We already don't want to get that off topic.
Why? Because we just spent 15 minutes trying to figure out a cold intro for this show just to settle on the most milquetoast one possible.
I mean, yeah. And then like 15 minutes before that, just scouring maps of the Pecos League with conspiracy theories about what team is joining the Pioneer League. So we suck.
Buddy,
today, even more than usual, frankly.
It was more than 15 minutes, buddy. I got news for you. It was 15 minutes trying to figure out which one played next to a body of water. Which is Monterey, by the way.
Yeah.
The Amber
Monterey.
Jets.
And no wonder we could figure it out because they're not there anymore. But, you know, great ballpark. I mean, look, I don't know. It looks cool for what else we're dealing with in the Vegas. But, yeah.
What? Here's where we're we say they don't exist anymore. And then immediately someone tweets underneath this like, no, they're still there.
Yeah, right. For what we know. Who's to say what the hell's going on?
I mean, they're not listed on the map, so that's good enough for me.
Yeah, so, right.
Blame whoever makes their website.
That's all we're going off of.
My God.
I don't think we should be rewarding the Pecos League with talking about them right away when we had the week that we did. That's my hot take.
That's true. I mean, we have to talk about Steve Tassler being named commissioner of the Frontier League. That's some big news.
That as well.
I mean, that seems like the only place to start. Certainly not, like in the city by the bay. That's certainly not the place to go to. Because nothing at all happened there.
No, nothing notable at all.
Any case, so Oakland, they have a baseball team. Well, technically they have two for this year.
True. Yes, they do.
We should elaborate on that.
Yeah, you can go ahead. You can, if you would like, you can detail what's going on, then we can figure out how we feel about it.
God, you act like it's my show.
I'm just trying to not get in the way. I talked a lot last week, so I'm trying to play the sharing game.
That's why the ratings were better. Any case, Pioneer League is heading to Oakland, California. The first Pioneer League team in California. There will be a sister team that will join them in Northern California. The greater Sacramento area seems to be the general consensus on the streets, and we are streets ahead. But we don't have an exact town yet. Everybody's desperately trying to find that out. We'll find out the formal announcement sometime in January, but we don't want to wait a month. We're impatient. Giving this now, there is a bounty of $0 for anyone that can give me that information. Regardless, team's name is going to be the Ballers or the Bees. The colors are exactly the same as the Oakland Athletics, also known as the Oakland A's. You can kind of see where they're going with that. Mika Franklin and Ray King are on the pitching staff. Franklin the manager, King to be the pitching coach. Both have former Major League Baseball pitching and playing experience. Presumably that will help generate things. Paul Friedman and Brian Carmel, both locals. They are owning the team. There's there's $2 million in initial startup funding. There's several other former major leaguers involved in it. However, long story short is, Oakland has a baseball team. They're likely playing out of Laney College, although that really hasn't been confirmed anywhere yet. Just seems to be the general speculation about it. And
I did see that on Twitter from a member of their staff.
Okay. So I
think they're pretty open about it right now.
Okay. Because, I saw in several articles, it wasn't confirmed for it, in any official thing, but I could have sworn I saw somebody actually say it, but then I couldn't find where I saw it. So I was like, okay, we're going to go with the not confirmed, so that way I don't look like an ass more than I have to.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So,
I believe it has been I think confirmed. I think it has been.
Okay, good. So that's the general facts of the matter. They're going to play in a new Pacific division. So I imagine this is also why when we were talking about scheduling like a week or two ago, you're like, there's nothing from them yet. And, well, now we know why there was nothing there yet. So a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. I don't know what stands out to you about it. What's the most pressing thing in your mind? What's your vibe on this whole thing?
So since Tuesday, I've been figuring out how I'm going to word this because I have two different mindsets, two different tracks on it. And they both wind up leading to cautiously optimistic, but I'm going to start with the positive side of it before I go to the negative on it, because I do want to get it out in the open first. I want to see it succeed. And I think there is a pathway to it, right? Where with other teams, it's all right, just do the same basic slate of things that every team has to do to be successful, and you probably will survive. With Oakland, it's not a matter of figuring out that extra, kind of missing step to really make it survive. You kind of know what you have to do. You know what works and what doesn't work. You also have an inbuilt fan base for baseball in general, and presumably you have a more cost-effective and potentially even nicer ballpark to see baseball in. You have something that is built by the community for the community. That's obviously a huge plus there. So from that fan-facing perspective, I think that's certainly a positive there as well. It seems like they know what they're doing, generally speaking, as far as management goes. Again, very early on. So just kind of initial impression more than anything else. But it seems like they have a general plan down for how they're going to do the travel, how they're going to do this, how they're going to do that. And they're kind of slowly putting it together. And it seems to be, generally speaking, positive so far. So that's certainly a plus there. And also the $2 million startup capital is also a nice little thing to see. Now, again, I imagine that's not entirely the way it's been framed to be. Just hey, look, we got $2 million, but how much did the expansion team cost? So that was part of it. Plus, obviously being out on kind of an island by yourself, even if you get this, we're just going to call it the Sacramento team, even though it's probably not going to be in Sacramento proper. And having that there, it'll help with travel a little bit. But I mean, generally speaking, you still got to fly to games. So that's something there. The negative person in me is kind of okay, are they baseball fans, or are they Major League Baseball fans, or are they Oakland Athletic fans? Because if it's the middle one where they're MLB fans, you have a chance at winning them back over and getting to embrace the local area. As opposed to their athletic fans, you have a chance of getting them to embrace a new team, but generally speaking, they probably aren't baseball fans, so I'm not sure they want to invest in another team. If they're just general baseball fans, then that's the easiest sell of them all. So that's a positive there. I'm a bit worried about operating expense. It's going to cost a lot of money to fly out there, and what are already kind of brutal road trips are about to get even worse. Because I figure they got to do them in sets of 9 or 12. That'd be the only thing that would make sense to me. You're not going to, not go away for 2 weeks at a time when you got to fly to most of your destinations, or fly to a place and then rent a bus to take the team wherever. So that's a little bit of an issue there. And again, I think the $1 million question, which is the thing that we're both going to come back to, and everyone that talks about this is going to come back to, is year one's not really the problem. Out of just pure spite, it will not be a problem. The problem becomes year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And as we get further and further away from Oakland leaving, the A's leaving Oakland rather, will the team be able to do enough in that first or second year to say, hey, stick around, keep coming to the games? And I think also partially it may be a bit of an easier sell to get people to come into Oakland to watch Major League Baseball versus minor league baseball. And I think for a lot of people too, going from Major League Baseball, even if it is the A's, gotta have my dig in, it's still higher quality than the Pioneer League. So getting used to that shift, I think, is definitely going to be a learning curve for some people. And I think that could be a problem as well. So initial thoughts is there's definitely an eager base that's willing to give you that shot and maybe even a couple shots early on. So if you do the right things from the start, and then you have a couple of missteps, but you by and large get it together and get it right, you'll be successful. The problem is, though, if you don't give them a reason to come back, they really aren't going to come back. And that first impression is going to do an awful lot. So that's the initial thought I had.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on it. First of all, it's a pretty brilliant branding move from the Pioneer League to lean into and to sort of be open to. You know, how many times has the Pioneer League now been referenced in the past week or half a week? I mean, right. So that's a great call. If I recall as well, their contract with
MLB for the pretty much the severance money.
I'm just thinking it through to see if I have the paper copy of anything here. No, but I think that's wrapped up, and it is funny that immediately now they're doing this, which I think is something that a lot of leagues would be afraid of doing, which is fascinating.
Yeah. It's a high cost of operation league. I mean, with all the travel and everything. Like, yeah, player salaries are low, but I mean, when you got to pretty much go on a 300-mile bus trip for your nearest away game, I mean, that's, you know.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm trying to formulate these into sort of an order that makes sense here. My general vibe on it is positive and hopeful. I think the good thing is understanding that there is a market that's hungry for it in a way to kind of, I want to say exploit that. It's not exploit that, that's not what I mean, but like, strike a good chord to get attention and
capitalize on
interest in a way that, and that a lot of indie league teams I don't think can. So that's good. Now I agree with you. I'm not worried about year one. However, if you looked at the Laney College baseball field recently, there's like no seating. It's extremely limited. So like year one might be the easier year to start drawing fans in. And they're going to be very limited in how they can, generate revenue through that, I think. And any revenue they do generate is going to be from probably something that they have to pump money into for renovation to that ballpark, which they've referenced in the rollout. So that is going to be interesting to pay attention to, and that is definitely a cause for concern. Further cause for concern, I would say, is you are inviting the comparison to MLB teams by doing this, and you're going to need to put a good product out there. It's going to need to have a lot of well-executed in-game experience, in-game entertainment going on. And frankly, Oakland has shown us they can be passionate about baseball, and they've also shown us that they cannot show up for a bad baseball product. So you need to deliver a good baseball product. And it's like, if you don't, it's going to be hard to win people back. Like, you're very quickly going to be like, oh yeah, that's a side thing. If you don't deliver on those promises, they're going to be like, well, we've already seen what happens when you don't deliver on the promises in that town when it comes to your baseball team. It won't be well received. So there's a lot of possible pitfalls they're going to have to be very careful to avoid in rolling this thing out. I will say, they are going to have less trips. It sounds like I'm wondering if they're going to have their own division with one other team in it. And they're going to be, because I've already heard the term travel partner tossed around, and that most of their travel is going to be that team. So I think they're going to have a very weighted schedule toward that other California team, at least for this year. Mm-hmm. And then maybe further expansion comes, which balances the divisions differently. But so that's interesting to see. So I'm wondering if they're only going to have to make a few road trips. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they play about 5 or 6 of the teams in the league on the road, and same maybe with teams coming to Oakland.
Which I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, I don't like that. Yeah, I don't think that's a good move for the Pioneer. Well, realistically, maybe they're doing the 12 teams, so they have 4 teams in it. Let me see which 2 make sense. I'm so bad with going off the top of my head on the far out west geography stuff, but
which once we get through just the general discussion here on it, there's an immediate comparison I had for this Laney College Stadium. So,
Okay.
it's just remind me to circle back to that.
Got you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would assume if they're doing a 14 pod thing, maybe they're doing like Boise and either Ogden or Idaho Falls. It could be Boise and Idaho Falls, and then you have the Montana division.
Here's the counter,
the Pacific
though.
division, and then you have Utah and Colorado as a division.
Counterpoint, though, is flying into Denver a bit easier. And by easier, I mean, i.e. cheaper. Because you could fly into Denver cheaper. Colorado Springs in northern Colorado probably a bit easier to swing.
Yeah, you might be right on that one. Yeah, you might be right there. We'll see. There's a lot they might have rolling with here. But I don't know. I hate to say it. I have some bad vibes. I watched the interview. The one interview was like 10 minutes-ish long, I feel like, with the owners, Brian Carmel and Paul Friedman.
Yeah.
I was not impressed. I don't want to say there was red flags, but I'll say, and they introduced themselves and their backgrounds, and like, Brian Carmel was like, he said, my background is much more in storytelling. I've been a television writer and producer and media executive for my entire career. It's like, okay, sure, not really relevant, but okay, like, entertainment, fine.
Yeah, it could be good
and
for
then the
in-game.
other guy, yeah, but then Paul Friedman had just one of those ones that like sets off a little alarm bell. I don't know, maybe just with me. It was, I'm a founder and builder in a lot of different businesses, but mostly in the human capital space. So a lot of companies focused on the concept of economic mobility, things that provide better for their families and their communities, but I'm a business builder. Hey, Paul, what does that mean, dude? Sorry, it made my skin crawl, buddy. Like,
this is like one of those
from getting a business, like it is one of those things where it's like, stay, like that is someone who
that's the
either
kind of,
is,
yeah.
What do you think?
The
when you hear
immediate
that?
thing when you said that, I was like, holy shit. And I'm sure I'm not alone for this. This is like when you first graduate college and you don't have shit on your resume. So you just kind of apply to stuff. And then when you apply and you look the thing up, you're like, oh, it's one of these bullshit things. But in the interview, they're like, yeah, we're a new age company designed for the modern younger worker and trying to mix like business with family and all that crap.
Yeah. Like, I'm even looking through like his LinkedIn, like it's just like president of like, I don't know, some random companies. Sure. Nothing before that, nothing about background. And then it's like CEO of like a bunch of like education companies, but like one, I think it's like no longer accrediting. Another, it was like online college stuff, which is like a mixed bag when it comes to legitimacy.
Aren't they the ones that are like the primary holders in educational debt in this country?
I think, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, like Mercy College and all that crap. I don't know Mercy exactly, but like, who's the big one that got busted like a year or two back?
Oh, I don't remember, but I remember like watching a video on it. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, like I know there's like a PBS Frontline series about it.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. He could be fine, but it's just like a lot of weird jobs, and it's a lot of like jobs that seem really far from being relevant. So I don't know it's not like he's just a funder. He's CEO of this. Like, now, if I'm honest, I am more worried about the people behind this idea than anything else, than the fan support, than anything else. Like, I think in a situation where we're talking about how you got to get it right from the jump and like deliver for people, like you need to have all the right people in all the right places. And I'm kind of like, who are you, founder, builder of businesses? Like, yeah, I'm a business builder. Sounds really cool, but like, he'd never built a business like this. He's never built.
It's just a totally different industry.
Man. It's giving me, and maybe it's just because it's recent, it's giving me very concerning I'm a real estate mogul vibes from Gastonia.
Yeah. Which I found the PBS thing too, just unrelated.
Like, I don't know, man.
It feels very much like just a dude that has some money and wants a ball club, or has a way to get money out of people that
who, have had some bad, breaks.
Exactly.
Hey, online education guy.
Yeah, Everest College.
You can cut all that if you want, because that might be an unnecessary shot to online education, which is not my thing. But there's a lot of online education companies are trash.
University of Phoenix.
I just.
Yeah. See, here's the. It very much does have that kind of I'm a real estate mogul, just trust it vibe. And the thing is, it's not always as scammy as. I'm just going to get this to develop this to make more money off of it. Sometimes it's just straight up as I have a chance to be a big man and be the hero. And then it's oh, no, I don't. And it feels I agree with you. That's the biggest issue there. And looking at this Laney College, to wrap it back to the thing I said a few minutes ago. You look at this ballpark and it's fine for the kind of college that Laney College is, fine. But it reminds me, for those that remember the short-lived idea that was the Western Professional Baseball League. Mm-hmm. Who remembers that? Yep. And one of their 2 announced teams in the Henderson Who. I encourage everyone to go look at the Morse Field at College of Southern Nevada. And it looks very, very, very similar. And all I'm going to say is, that's not the most encouraging sign. Now, obviously, the field can get renovated. You can do more with it. Now, of course, I don't want to make the bad comparison, but I think we all have to acknowledge that on a couple of fronts, if it goes bad, and I do stress if, it could turn into a Jackal type situation where your livelihood depends on a college that owns the field you play on. And over time, if that relationship deteriorates, you could find yourself homeless and scrambling for something, and then having to move into an area that is completely opposite of your existing fan base. Now, of course, that's not necessarily an issue here. It may never be an issue here, but it is something that has to be considered. And also the fact that people are willing to travel more for Major League Ball versus minor league ball, right? So, are you going to be able to attract the same crowd to those 2 events? Is another question I have. Or how are you going to attract them? I guess is a more positive way to phrase it.
That is definitely interesting. And I'm being bad. No. I'm still obsessing over this Paul Friedman guy. No. I should not be. It's not the point. The point is, there's a lot of ways this could go wrong. It's going to be a hell of a tightrope to try to get this thing right, which it feels like the second week in a row we're talking about an Indy Ball team that's going to have that kind of situation after Gastonia last week. So, I hope this works. I don't like the number of things that feel temporary because it's just too easy to walk back. We're at this small college field temporarily. We're going to do some renovations on it. And they're putting another team the other team seems like they're going to be using some college field, which I guess is not a big deal for the Pioneer League, but I'm also that feels, not exactly super permanent. I don't know. I would hate for this to immediately walk back. Yeah, I don't like it either, but certain teams don't seem to mind it with certain leagues, but that's just where I'm coming from. But my takeaway is, if they're going to do it right and get the right people involved, it's going to be good. If not, it's going to be a mess and it's going to hurt to watch. And it's going to maybe put a dark mark on a league that's been doing well lately and has been making the right strides. So I hope it doesn't. I like that this is a league not afraid to fly in the face of MLB. I like that. I respect the hell out of it. I think it's interesting, by the way, because this is something that we've talked about in the past, changing gears a little bit. Sorry if we got sort of caught up in being negative on that one, but it is interesting to see a very clear team now, because we've talked about the concept of this, that benefits from not flying the MLB flag and logo all the time.
Yeah.
We talked about this in the context of, I found in Lexington and some other markets that, the Atlantic League was very forward in being do not use the phrase Indy Ball, use partner league, because like it's a huge thing. And there were markets who were like, hey, like MLB partner league, like we just got broken up with by MLB. Our fans aren't thrilled about that. Like that's not a brand of, that has, the awe factor here. Like
I don't want to fly the banner of the guy that just conquered me.
Yeah. And you sit and you're like, well, anyway, it's interesting here that this is one that is going to be very expressly that way. And frankly, I think it's going to maybe put I don't know what the relationships are like, but I'd be surprised if MLB is thrilled about this and the way they've kind of rolled it out with like kind of a middle finger. It's interesting. Now I have noticed the Pioneer League has seemed to very carefully not be doing that and be like, well, the team, they're going to do that, whatever. I mean, look, the Atlantic League has Staten Island. There was like lawsuits going on. Same with Tri-City and Frontier League. So whatever, but it is going to be interesting to see how they, as a league and as an organization, navigate that MLB branding question over the next, year and beyond.
The thing too is it depends also on a major league versus a minor league market, right? In a market like say Staten Island, that major league branding could be more beneficial to you because New York is, I think we can confidently say, more of a major league market. It's the kind of thing where no one really cares about college athletics. Minor league athletics are more or less just like, okay, it's kind of a fun activity type of thing, which I think is generally the case for a lot of places, but it's also not the kind of live and die kind of mentality. It's all about, okay, these are the pro teams. These are the ones we care about. In New York in particular, it's like, okay, it's the Yankees, then it's the Giants, then it's the Mets, then it's the Jets. The Knicks are probably in there too, but mainly only when they're doing well. The Nets are also there, and then there's all the hockey as well. So it's just like, okay, we only have the real care for pro teams because there's so much else happening too that you have to stand out. As opposed to some of these other minor markets, smaller markets, like say Boise, where you have like an ECHL team. So yeah, the minor league baseball team is going to hold a lot more weight. And so that MLB seal off the bat wasn't really going to do all that much because it's like, okay, great. It's a Major League Baseball logo. It doesn't really, what's the relationship here? Like, cool. We're proud of when our guys from Boise make it to the show. No doubt about that. But like, great. You're a partner league. We're not seeing our guys go to the show anymore though. So it holds a little bit different weight when you're in those pro markets. Being able to be like, oh, okay, it's associated with Major League Baseball. Maybe I should give this a look first. Okay, it's still minor league ball.
Yeah, I follow. I'm just trying to think this through.
Yeah.
And where this is going to go, man. Which might even be a waste of time, but do you think this is going to work out? If you had to make the prediction.
Here's the thing. I could see it going both ways. Because on one hand, I think there's a lot of concerns to be had here. On the flip side, I also could see it. I could see it going so many different ways, man. Because I want to take a second to make sure I word it right, so that way I don't sound too negative. The leadership at the very top is what concerns me. The rest of the way down, I'm kind of fine with. You have, who is it? I got it written down here. Wakamatsu handling baseball ops. So I like that, even though I don't really know Indy Ball, but I figure he could get it going there. Managing wise, they got some names and that seems positive here. We know some of the other people involved in it and I like them as well. Again, I feel like the general fan support early on is there, so you have that opportunity. But my biggest concern, and when you were first, giving your thoughts on it, what came to my mind is like I really hope this doesn't come across in the way of like, well, yeah, we'll show you, we'll have our own ball club, and it winds up being like, yeah, this is your own ball club. It's just the Pioneer League team. I really hope it doesn't come across that way. Because there is a cynical way to look at this where you go, oh, so you don't have the A's, so you have the B's, and they have the same colors, and they, You see where I'm going with that. So
Yes.
I'm really, 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 really hope people don't take it that way. And as we know, it's very easy to get wrapped up in the, I don't want to call it echo chamber, but the kind of pod from which we exist in a lot in Indy Ball, because it's such a small community. And the fact that really the only place to talk about it is online and in those small communities. And we're inherently going to build ourselves up because, quite frankly, sometimes we need it. So you're not going to see too much critical thinking until like the problem becomes like, okay, it's actually starting to become an issue. That's when we'll start to acknowledge it. So, we haven't seen too much critical of it. That said, I do think there's a couple ways where the general public may not be as optimistic or view it in the same light as we are or as the advocates for Oakland are seeing it. So to answer the overall question of how do I see it working out, I think it entirely depends on the public mood. If the public mood is positive and wants to be, cooperative and build with the team, I think it works out really well. If the public mood is just kind of neutral, I think it kind of sputters for a little while, but gets by for a good little clip before the costs start to make, very important and critical decisions for them. If the general community is just like, it's not Major League Ball, it's not the A's, then it doesn't have a shot. But I don't think that's going to be the concern, at least early on.
Yeah. And I guess to one, I'll get to what I'm thinking might happen here too. Yeah. I think it's worth just pointing out my least favorite thing about all of this. And this sounds weird, but kind of my biggest concern is the Bees branding. Because when you build your whole, it's one thing to be like, we made our own team, middle finger, we're doing our thing because you chose to not want us. Well, then we don't need you. That's one thing. Okay. But to build your whole brand identity around that middle finger to them, that's backwards looking in my mind. And I worry that
it seems very
leaning that hard into it
gives
you a plot early on and gives you some traction early on. I worry that is not going to age as well, or maybe it will. I mean, maybe it will sort of over time.
It does come across as juvenile.
Thing. It does a little bit, and that's not necessarily, I think, what you want to do, especially if we're putting the legitimacy thing forward.
Exactly. And it may not be even the intention of it. It just may be how it comes across. Because you can't control how someone perceives something. That's out of your control, but you can do something that kind of guide them to the result you want.
Yes, I agree with that one. What I think is going to happen here is going to be complicated. It's going to really depend on year one, because I think it goes without, beaten to death that the Pioneer League needs to expand quickly after this. Like they need to, it's not great by any measure.
Yeah, that's
to have two teams hanging way out there. I think that it also relates to how the team will do, because I think they need to, so having the two teams out there, having them play each other more, having the weird travel situation, it's not ideal. And these are not the big budget teams, even compared to other Indy Ball teams. So there's a ticking clock on the additional expansion. Each expansion, as we are noting with the issues with expansion in the Atlantic League, is a commitment from the league. It is a reputation commitment, it's a financial commitment, it is a time commitment. If you put a brand somewhere and it fails, that's a 4 or 5 year wasted opportunity on expansion. Now you have to try it again somewhere else. I am interested in what year one looks like if they are trying to expand year two, like in 2025, to have more teams in California, or they're going to take a little more time. If this thing by mid-season year one is looking like it is struggling, if you're the Pioneer League, I mean, are you thinking,
oh God, did we make a mistake?
Maybe we need to pull back and not put more teams out there and then just have them on the island when this team stops working out? I feel like the success of this team is really going to dictate the Pioneer League's future, which maybe goes without saying, but in ways that I think are even more immediate than we might think when you acknowledge the fact that, yeah, they can't just have two teams staying out there by themselves, and you're going to want to expand. But before you expand, you want to make sure this is not just going to be a short-lived thing too. So, I mean, hey, it's a gamble. It's a gamble that might not pay off, but the Pioneer League has shown that they're gamblers before. Everybody took this leap to do the Indy Ball thing. They have taken some leaps on the content side, the entertainment side. So, this is who they are. And we, time and time again, we applaud them for that. And I feel like, I think it's a coin flip whether this works. And I think if it doesn't work, it's going to probably fade in 2-3 years.
It's too expensive a gamble to keep up for 5.
Yeah, and if it goes belly up and it's looking bad early, then it gives the Pioneer League a couple years to find their new market, closer to the footprint. Let's not sleep on the fact that there are some Pecos League markets I think would be jumpable into the Pioneer. We were looking at what Monterey has something that they're no longer in the Pecos. Marysville has a 4,000 seater that is well within reach for that if you're doing the California expansion. So there's things to look at there. It's just going to be tense. I do not envy the risk they've taken, but I appreciate them doing it. I don't know. I guess that's not really a prediction. It's saying that I think we're going to know what this is looking like pretty fast. And I think we're going to know what the long term looks like on this by what the Pioneer League does with announcements of future franchises. Like if they're very early to be like, yeah, we're expanding more, that's probably a good sign. And if they're a little hesitant, maybe not. I don't know, but
yeah. And the thing that gets
I really want this to work.
Yeah, that's the thing too, because it's a very ambitious decision to do it, because this is clearly the kind of decision that you need 100% ownership buy-in on, right? You can't have anyone that's like, no, we're not ready to see this thing work out. If you have like 2 owners that are like, I don't know about it, you're not doing this, because it's just such a big gamble. And realistically, it's the league's money that's on the line, and the league's money is really the owner's money. So you have to have that buy-in. And if this works, then it opens the door to a lot more. I worry whether or not this was a necessary move to make, because they could have been very content just in their, 10-team setup, trying to, maybe go for a less ambitious decision, maybe something in Nevada if it was there, maybe look more Nebraska. Wyoming we could just kind of rule out. I mean, I don't think there's enough population there, and also we're dealing with a state that doesn't have high school baseball. There isn't a baseball culture there. I don't mean to disparage Wyoming.
Great rodeo. Yeah. Great rodeo, Wyoming. You're right. Hang in there.
It's like, I don't mean to disparage the Wyoming baseball fans here, but guys, it's rough out there, and just putting like one team in like Cheyenne or something is not going to work. It's just going to be way off. And also, I mean, like Cheyenne's close enough to like NoCo and them, so I guess, but like, we're not going down that tangent, but still, you didn't really need to do something ambitious, but you chose to do it, and I applaud you for doing that. You could have even said like, okay, maybe we'll look more along the Canadian border. Maybe we'll look more like Oregon or Washington, but they wanted to go big game hunting, and they got something here. So now it's on to them to really make it work. But it's definitely playing at the, at the big game. There's a high buy-in here. So like you said, I mean, like it's an immediate results-based kind of thing. It's just, not so much, okay, let's see if that burns in the oven, and more or less, grab the burner to find out if it's hot. The thing that
just gonna say, and here you go, Wyoming.
Yeah.
For all of our Wyoming listeners.
Yeah. All 3 of you.
They have gotten the draw. They were able to pick their own bull to ride, and they decided to go with that big dog rather than going with the one that they've ridden before, that they know they could probably get a good ride on, because they won the big points that comes with the big bull. And now they got Pioneer League's going to find out. Like, either you're going to walk away with nothing, and Apple's going to walk away being like, damn, they messed that up, but I got a ton of points here. Or they're going to walk away with a ton of points and look amazing in front of everybody. There you go. There's your rodeo reference. I will say.
Is that the episode title, though? Grab the bull by the ballers?
Oh, bud. Love it. The reason I don't want to, part of me wants to like scream. Like Pioneer League, you're getting sold into a good situation. You have a couple markets you're trying to cultivate. What are you doing? But how many times have we sat around, even off the pod, just kicking around like possible expansion spots, and it just seems a little far beyond the footprint, even though we know it'd be cool. And we're like, if this works, I mean, think about the big, like almost like satellite team expansions we've seen, Sugarland, Cleburne, like that, the efforts for further expansion never came about. Like, who knows what the American Association's thinking about, because we talked about last week, them looking southeast, but right now they still have Cleburne hanging out there. And it is hard. It's because it takes time to get that done, and you do not want the team just sitting out there or, having to hopefully get another market so that that's close to your footprint so you can cut that one loose. That's a weird situation too. So I'm hoping if this works out and they can use this as the jumping off point for a successful Western expansion, that is going to start to be the blueprint for everyone else to do it. And I think for all of Indy Ball, that would be a great thing. So I think all of Indy Ball should be rooting for this. I think that's no question. It's good for everybody if it succeeds. It's not like every league should be rooting for it, because it's not even like you went in anyone else's footprint here except Pecos. Sorry, but whatever.
Yeah, they don't count.
No, they really don't. So yeah, there's a lot on the line for all of Indy Ball here. It could be a really good thing. Also, because it's a public thing, like a lot of people are looking at this. That's also not people in the fact that like we as Indy Ball fans and media people and whatever are really relying on the Ballers to not make a mess of this. Like, they need to get this right, dude, because people are going to be paying attention to this. Like, this is getting discussed.
This is the best PR we've had in a while.
A month in, a year in, whatever, the failed Indy Ball's a mess. Like, there's no backing here. Or, like, they have that Oakland Ballers team that everyone has name recognition with has, like, some dumb thing where, like, a game ended because of darkness. Or they had some random pitching and he gave up 20 runs and they lost 45-3 in a weird Pioneer League game. Like, that's going to make a bigger impact. So I also am like pleading with the baseball gods to have people that are going to execute well in Oakland, because
and especially opening night,
the opportunity here.
God, let opening night go off without a hitch, because that's the one where all the press are going to be at. Mm-hmm. Everything we could just have a complete disaster on night 2. I'm fine with that if the trade-off is it runs seamlessly and beautifully for opening night. Yeah.
It's a shame that I'm thinking about this. It's a shame that Dallas Braden is not going to be able to do anything with them, realistically, because he's that guy. I mean, if you wanted a personality attached to this, it's Dallas Braden. But yeah, with his working and broadcasting for Oakland, which he's a killer. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't suspect that he will be able to do anything, unfortunately.
Get Brody Brazil in here.
Yeah, man, he's the one who had the interview I was watching with them. Brody Brazil is fascinating. Anyway, sorry, I feel like this is my, admission to everybody listening here. I feel like I didn't have a lot to say on this, or I didn't have a lot of substance to say. And really, it's because I am not sure how I feel about this still. I'm very conflicted. I want it to work so well. I don't know that it's the decision I would have made, but I also love the decision.
It's such an Indy Ball decision, though, where it's just like, you know what? We're going for it. It's the going for it on 4th and 5, where you're like, there's still like 9 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and we're only down by 5 right now. Like, we don't need to go for this one here at midfield. We can punt this one. But you're like, but if we convert it, we can march this clock down and burn it down to about 1:30 left with a lead in hand. So we're going for it, right? Like,
Yeah.
So you gotta respect that move. And like, I do wonder if my perception of this would be different if they went with a different brand. If they didn't go Bulge, they went something else. Even if you want to keep like the bees thing, and you went with like Oakland Bays, even though it's San Francisco Bay, so not one for one there, but like something like that. I mean, Oakland Oaks would have been good. Oakland Olympians. Because Olympians kind of plays on athletics. You know, like, I feel like you could have done more there. I'm cool with keeping the colors and whatnot, because I mean, those are kind of like when you think Oakland colors, you're like, oh, green and yellow, or green and gold. Like, that's just what you think of. So I'm cool with that. Like, Ballers as a name, I don't like it. And it's like kind of clear to it, like, we're picking a fine name, but we really want you to go by the Bees, which doesn't have the same ring to it, I don't think. So, like, I just feel like the branding could have been better, and it would have made it feel... I don't want this to be insulting, so I really hope it doesn't come across that way, but I'm going to just say it outright. It would feel so much like less of a, you can't tell us what to do, we're going to do our own thing, that kind of juvenile, like, we're going to show you, and more of a, this is a serious business enterprise. At least in my eyes. Yeah.
It felt to me like it was sending a message that we're doing this because of them, not for you.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
like
not...
You want to be like, we're doing this for the fans. We don't even think about you. It is almost like literal proof on your head that they live in your head rent free.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, that shouldn't be it. Like, we are going to we're our own thing. We're not even worried about what you're doing. Oh, you're staying for another year? Cool. Enjoy that. Good luck with your stadium. We're doing our own thing over here. Like, enjoy. While you're, I mean, if they're smart, man, I don't know where the Oakland, Coliseum's property starts, but if I'm them, bro, I am their advertising team as close to that property line as you can. Make the cops get involved about it.
Yeah.
Like, make the media story be that they kicked you off of their property while you were telling people about the team that wants to stay around. Like, there's ways to do this and like stir up a little bit of a ruckus and have a good time with it. I just, I don't know that, like, there's ways to give the finger without being like, our entire identity is it. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's what worries me.
Yeah, it just is a lot of concern there. But like you said, the plus side is if it does work out, especially for the Pioneer League, it opens up a world of opportunity for you. Because realistically, you look at a map, how much further away is Oakland than, say, some spots in Texas?
Yeah, man, you're right.
I mean, and that's a growing market. Now, obviously, we know the issues with Texas baseball and heat. That's certainly a concern, but like, you can work around it. And realistically, if you start doing really, really well, and you have a municipality that, say, maybe is involved with the Pecos League, and they start looking like, hey, this Pioneer League, they're generating a lot of revenue, and like, we started talking to some of these other cities that had them come to town, and like, the city's benefiting a lot from this. We like having a baseball team here. Maybe you got to go. And if you're in, like, say, Tucson or Santa Fe or something, you go like, hey, we'd like a Pioneer League team. You guys can make that happen. We can make that happen, whatever. Like, maybe that's overly optimistic, but if the economic reality starts to become like, hey, Pecos was great for what it was, but like, we've outgrown this, and we want a part of that, like, there is a very real possibility there. And it feels like the Pioneer League in particular specializes in, I'm going to say remote, and I'm not sure if it's the right word, but in kind of more remote, smaller cities, right? Those cities that are not touching 6 figures population, but they may get close to it. That's their bread and butter. Strong regional areas. If you're going into an area you haven't gone before, but the city fits your description, fits your pattern, and you also show like, hey, look, we work with this city of like, I don't even know how many people are in Oakland. We can work with that. We can also work with a community that has far fewer than that, as little as, say, 65,000. We can adjust for whatever. That's a great selling point to a lot of different communities, and it can really help out Indy Ball as a whole. There's so much potential if it goes right that you can't help but root for it to succeed. But yeah, there's just a lot of concern. It's really the ultimate problem.
Yeah. I've described the Pioneer League markets as, how do I describe it? As self-contained before. Where it's almost like you can operate however you need to operate to succeed in your little market. Like, and I don't say little market as in like patronizing. I'm saying like, if we were in Lexington, we were always thinking about marketing in Lexington and like to the city of Lexington and to the farm communities outside of Lexington. Like it's difficult. Like you have more of a channel of just straight to people that you know really well in these communities out in the Pioneer League and can basically gear anything to it if you choose to. Like the type of promotions you can gear very particularly, like a promotion that might not work for 90 other teams out there could work for you because you know your market, you know this thing would do great. You can have lean into a certain type of player. Like if it's just a grinder town that's all about just like work hard, not afraid to get punched in the face, not afraid to punch someone else in the face. You get a bunch of dudes who have that kind of vibe. Like they'll probably connect real well. You'll probably get better buy-in from the fans that way. And you can do that because you have more of a like central voice and a vibe in a town that are like a lot of these towns out there. Oakland makes it a little challenging, and they seem to have found one voice that is connecting to a lot of people, but I don't know that will continue to connect to them long term, and that's where I start to worry about that. But it might work, and it might be fine. And really, it is about, if we're talking expansion, in my opinion, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's the race to Tucson, man. I want to know, I got to assume Tucson is so far in the middle of nowhere, but if y'all don't know, Tucson currently has a Pecos League team in a ballpark that seats 10,000, and they get good attendance, like not crazy, but like for 4th of July game, I think they sold that thing out this year. Like it's something. And
you put a real league in there.
I'm always like, I know, I'm looking like, how could the Pioneer stretch down that far?
Man.
Like what's the best way? It's not that far from, looking at the Colorado markets.
Is it bad that like I hear that and I'm almost like, is Oakland the test run for this?
Could be.
Like, and here's the thing though.
You need some westward expansion either way.
I mean, like, here's the thing too, because like how much further is like Tucson to say like, I'll just use Oakland because we know them for right now. Like how much worse is that than like say Colorado Springs to Idaho Falls?
Mm-hmm. Great question.
Especially when you figure you could probably fly that. Now, obviously, that's going to be incurring a greater expense, but right, or who cares?
Well, so there's a couple things here. So Idaho Falls, Colorado Springs is almost exactly the same drive as Grand Junction to Tucson. It's good to know.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, right? Then on the flip side, you've got Boise to Oakland, which is almost the same. They're all within about 30 minutes of each other drive time-wise. Now that drive is over 10 hours, but there are longer drives than Indy Ball in every league. Yeah. I would say this is also the test case for, can you make flying reasonable if it's done in a way that makes sense? That's going to be a harder one to solve. Where, is it going to be a flying league, or is it going to be more of a busing thing when, say, there are some teams between Oakland and Boise? Say, if you were to do the Tucson thing, for example, you could drop another team in there somewhere, even though it's, I don't know where the hell you go. Sedona maybe, Flagstaff. I don't know. That we'll get in another time, but that's the stuff that this is serving as a test case for not only the Pioneer League, but multiple.
What if New Mexico's the answer?
Are watching how this works. What's that?
What if New Mexico's the answer?
I mean, maybe.
Because Roswell, what's Roswell like is really the question here as we start.
Roswell.
And we'll try to get back onto the point after this short discussion, at this short detour. But on the topic of Pioneer League expansion, I feel like the Pecos is ironically like the best comparison here. If for no other reason than just like where the Pioneer has to go is Pecos territory. And frankly, you would hope the Pioneer League could beat them out. Yeah.
I mean, Roswell's ballpark's garbage fire.
Okay, so that's not going to work.
So yeah, that's just the one thing I always get from people. Like, if I remember right, they had issues this year because they didn't have a tarp and they got rain and it, like, washed out a whole series or something.
That's a problem.
And it's not great. But let's see. I would say, I think Santa Fe might make more sense or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Again, we can deep dive that. Yeah. That's a whole off-season episode, but and not this one specifically.
Yeah,
but,
expansion mania is going to be one, though. We have open weeks.
I know, right? I would just say it's reasonable, and I think there's going to be a lot of people watching this. I assume that the Pioneer League is doing this with the intent of testing some things out and using this to sort of as a proof of concept on some things.
Yeah, fact-finding mission.
Might go real sideways, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, all that to say, look, I want this to work for a million reasons. I'm worried about it for not necessarily a million reasons, but quite a number. Yeah, and we'll see, man. I know that's not really I feel like this is a very disjointed way to go about this conversation, but there's a
lot of unknowns.
If you're listening, I hope you understand, like, this is how do we even talk about it? Like, because this just isn't really done.
Honestly,
this hasn't been done since the Sugarland move.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the kind of way where to put a bow on at least the Oakland part of it, because I do want to take just a second to talk about what could be that near Sacramento area market, because I have a couple guesses on it, which I just got from looking at a map quickly. But just to kind of like put the bow on it, is really putting it into perspective how massive of a move overall this has been. And I think this is where we can kind of make it more positive as well, because admittedly we pointed out a lot of flaws there, but I think that's important to, at least acknowledge the reality that's facing them. Right. So in the sense of just scope wise, it's direct to a shot over the bow of Major League Baseball as you can get. It's one of the largest gatherings of, general national press we've seen in the space in, about half a decade now? I mean, like, the rules agreement is the only other thing I could think of that would really be on the same plane. And even then, it's not exactly the same. And then just the ripple effects for not just the Pioneer League, but what it can mean for other leagues, right? That's what means so much here. And I also think it's important. One thing I meant to point out a little bit ago would be, when we look at like the American Association looking at like Tennessee, we were like, I don't know about that, but they can always go ahead and take over other markets and be good there. And for this one, we're like, whoa, it's way out there. And the reason why that may seem like kind of, Jekyll and Hyde on our perspectives there is the American Association is a much different league than the Pioneer. Like, the Pioneer, I don't think we would have really thought they would have ever been that daring. Not because leadership wouldn't do it, but just because it's such an odd thing for them to undertake. Like, they're just not the league that you would think would be, all right, fly the colors and let's see what happens. For them to make that kind of move, it's just such it's almost, I don't want to say it's beyond words, because it can be described, but it's just, there's so many different adjectives to describe the thing that it really is just mind blowing. And the overwhelming potential of a move like this, it's awesome in both description and scale. That
was well said. I was reflecting on, I don't like the way you ended that.
The most introspective show on top of esoteric.
I hope that you're right. I think actually the lead here for Indy Ball is that there's a league, and specifically a team that's given the league, MLB, the finger. And I think, I've said it before, I don't believe MLB partnership is a net gain for Indy Ball. I'm sure it's a net gain for some of the owners' pockets. Okay, cool.
Perhaps a handful of teams.
We see here, it seems to be the Pioneer League's deal with them is up, which I think is also why there are going to be some changes to the contract purchasing and how that works with them.
Alimony checks.
So keep an eye for that. But it's funny that, right away now, Pioneer League, which again is a league basically made up of teams who were broken up with by MLB, was immediately like, and we're going to Oakland, now what? So I like it, and I'd encourage that. I always encourage the boldness in the face of MLB. I think a lot of leagues and teams tiptoe MLB, despite not necessarily being under their thumb. And what I think all this shows, and will hopefully continue to show, is, frankly, this is something I pay a lot of attention to. Man, MLB is toothless. They are, like, game it out if they wanted to have an issue with this. We're putting a team in your backyard. They're literally down the same highway. Like, they're, 15 minutes away or something like that from them. They're like, we're not necessarily going to compete with you, but when your attendance is only 6,000 anyway, and it's going to be less after officially leaving, and now we have a ballpark that can fit 1,000 people are going to be not going to your game. That's like 20% of your attendance if they were able to do that. Like, just that threat. And for that, like, and what's MLB going to do? What are they going to say? Because you can't say we're taking a team and also you can't do that, which I think, by the way, they could. I think MLB could try to flex with the MLB partnership connection on the Pioneer League. I don't know the details there, but I've seen them do some weird stuff involving other leagues in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised. But I just hope this is a lesson to other teams to be like, just other leagues, just do it. Just do the thing. Don't worry about it. Like, because here's the thing. Everybody wants to be, MLB. A lot of these long-time organizations have MLB dreams or whatever. But in reality, Indy Ball came along as the competitor and the alternative. And in the end, MLB doesn't think about Indy Ball much. Like, we don't live in their head. And frankly, I think any connection that they have to us is simply strategic for their own control. And by not necessarily giving them control, I think it's a good thing. And I think by, just not giving them the respect that everyone seems to assume they're due just because they're dad and we're like the kid or something like that, I think is a good call. I think embrace the independence and I think you'll get good results more often than not. And I'm looking at, like, again, teams, you're still using the Indy Ball name, still doing promos that kind of make fun of certain things that MLB is involved with, publicly talking about how going to Indy Ball can be really great, and not worrying about stepping on toes. It's just that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I was shocked still, and I still am shocked by how much tiptoeing around MLB there seems to be, and I don't understand it. There's very few organizations out there that have a worse reputation. The best thing they've done is add a clock. Like, let's be honest, that's all they've done in the past, 10, 20 years. So this isn't the powerhouse organization. They have the money, yeah, but they don't have the moral high ground on anything. There's a lot of towns and cities around this country that could have professional baseball, that could have it right in their backyard, but they don't because MLB can veto it. So, like, if you think you could have had a minor league team, or you think you should have, or you think you still should, a lot of that comes down to the stupid region game they play, where if you're within X amount of miles as another team, they can say no to you putting a professional team of, like, basically any level there.
Oh,
and
that's
Indy
why
Ball's
Indy
one of the
Ball's
last
here.
people. Yeah.
That's
literally
genesis for modern Indy Ball. Was just
literally,
we could not put a team there because region block. So I was like, fine, we won't be affiliated. And that's how.
And Frank Bolton got mad.
Frank Bolton's like, screw you. I'm going to put a team here in Hempstead, Long Island. I don't give a damn what the New York Mets have to say.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like, that's it. But think about that. Like, the New York Mets, who, if we really look at it, I mean, what do they even invest in Long Island compared to what they probably should or could? We're the ones being like, no, you can't have a professional baseball team. We don't care what it would do for your local economy. We don't care what it would do for the people. We don't care what it would do for jobs. No, too bad, because we want every cent we can get. Gross. And that's why everybody, like, I think we can, MLB, you've proven there's a good baseball market in a certain city. Cool. We're going to put a team there too. Like, so what are we going to, and we're going to charge half the price and put on a great fun product. And maybe we'll lean a little Savannah Bananas-y sometimes for in-game entertainment. And going to put on a good show while everybody's, worried about getting out of the ballpark in less than 3 hours down the street. Again, those of you who've been around will not be surprised when I say, well, what happened to one baseball? Because as I recall, when we started talking about the partner leagues, what is a partner league? And it's hard to really nail down what a partner league is. We're partners in what? Well, we're partners in baseball. And it came out with all the leagues together, the minor leagues, which yes, we did just cut a bunch of those teams, but not fully because a lot of them are now Indy teams or nothing.
Yeah.
It just reshuffled, and they didn't get cut loose from anything because all of us together are these partner leagues now, not Indy leagues, not independent. These minor leagues, they're not minor, they're professional development leagues.
Yeah.
We're all one baseball, and there's a brand and there was a logo, and I haven't seen it once. It's nowhere.
Never.
They're retweeting who won the AAA and AA championships, the MLB account, and we don't get even mentioned. Like, it's embarrassing. It's a joke. It's gone to what I've always said it is, which is the only reason they wanted any sort of connection there and get some money in the hands of some of the owners is because they could leverage then. Be like, maybe it was just so they could use the brand. Maybe there was no money. That's something else that we could debate. But it was because they then had something that, that is a nightmare. If you're MLB, that is a rare vulnerability for you that another team could just pop in, if you did something shitty, like take a team out of Oakland, and then they could just pop in and make you look bad and put a team right there. That's a risk. So, you want to limit that risk a little bit. And that's what it was. They hated that there was nothing they could do to yank the chain on these independent teams. There's 70 professional baseball teams across this country. They could not do anything to or with. And that gave them the connection and just drives me up a wall because it was so transparent and we screamed it from the rooftops and they said, no, it's great. MLB. And then here we are. And what have we got to show for it, man? It's embarrassing.
And like the only time I've ever seen
that was a rant. There was the rant.
The only time I see partner league, the only time I ever see that partner league crap is occasionally when I go to a ballpark, I'll see a banner or on like promotional material. And I always sit there and go, how much good is this really doing? Like in the beginning, I wanted to be positive. Also, I think that was like the third show I ever did was when that dropped. I remember I was sitting in class when that dropped. So I was like, ooh, that's going to be a fun week. But like, I've tried to be positive. I've tried to be upbeat about it, right? And like every passing year, it's like, nope. It's like Lando from Star Wars. This deal just keeps getting worse all the time. It keeps getting worse, except for like a handful of teams. Like I said, if you're in a pro sport market, I bet that helps. But like, if you're in a market like Kane County, Tri-City, I don't think you really give a rat's ass about Major League Baseball. In fact, I think you'd like to flip them the Dirty Birds of Charleston that also lost their team in that whole deal. I really don't think you're exactly, Kumpari right now. So the whole thing there, it goes back to the point where like, I get, and like that whole conversation we just had, is also why it's like, I want Oakland to work because it is the middle finger and I get the spite angle of it and I get all of that. And then it's immediately countered by the first hour of this show where we were like, you don't want to build a team off of spite because that fades. But like, you also see the appeal of spite and going and running with that. So there's just so much here and so much on the bone that, It's such an interesting move going to Oakland, and it's awoken a lot of feelings in both of us.
Apparently.
Definitely. Only other Oakland adjacent topic here, which is kind of like ribs adjacent, for those in the pre-show. This other Northern California team, we're going to find out in about a month or so. Do we have predictions for where this team could be? We know it's going to be near Sacramento, but we don't have the exact town.
I would,
because I have two guesses.
I can't. So it's really hard to guess because I never would have guessed where they are currently playing with Oakland, like at a community college. Because like if you're pulling up maps of teams, you're not even looking at community college teams. So who knows?
Last chance you represent.
I am fascinated by the potential for Maryville.
Yeah,
I think it's. We are hearing the rumors of Sacramento adjacent. So maybe, but they are. I mean, it's 35 miles ish away, I think, but it's one of the only big ballparks there. If you are already entering the one California market with a lot of work to do, I just feel like you probably common sense would like less work to do in the other team. Marysville showed up to the Pecos League as seemingly, from what I'm hearing from most people, fairly legitimate organization. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see them kicked around. Who knows how that would work out with the Pecos? But they have some weird scheduling stuff. They have a schedule for 2024 already, but then I don't know. Who knows what that means? It's Pecos, man. They've replaced teams closer to opening day, so I'm not that worried about that. But that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. It's tough. I'm so confused by the fact they went to a community college. So I'm like, I don't know, bro. Could go anywhere. They could be playing a field.
Here's the thing. Who owns Marysville, first off?
Oh, well, I'd assume, what's his face? Andrew Dunn.
Dunn? Okay, so then.
Yeah, Dunn. Oh, it's not Alpine, so Dunn owns it.
Okay. So essentially, the current team would have to die, and the city would have to find a new owner, and then take it over then, right?
I would assume so.
And that's assuming that Marysville, the current team, does not have a deal for the stadium they're playing in, i.e. a lease that'd be tough to break.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that's the issue.
I'm trying to think through how that would even work, but I'm also like...
Obviously, it would depend on the terms of the lease. But
if I have a Pecos League team and the Pioneer League approaches me and I'm a local government, I'm like...
I'm trying to throw the Pecos League team out. No one's arguing that.
I do what I gotta do, yeah. Exactly.
But at the end of the day, there's also... You have a contract. So at what point is it like, okay, we're better off just waiting them out and getting rid of them that way and just not renewing the contract like you're, have every right to do, as opposed to trying to evict the guy. Regardless, to steer us back on track, because there is other stuff we wanted to discuss, and we're now at like 90 minutes on this.
Good luck editing, yeah.
It is what it is. But the two I have are former Pacific Association markets, which I immediately believe will be met with groans and eye rolls. But what about Sonoma and Napa? Particularly Napa.
Yeah. Trying to remember where the Stompers played.
Not where that great. I looked this up while we were doing
I remember
talk earlier.
They had
because honestly,
Ben Lindbergh and Sam Miller were there for the 1 year to do their experiment book thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a chain link fence field. So that's that.
Yeah. So that's not going to work.
What was the other one you had?
That I just sent you, not Sonoma. I sent you Napa.
Oh, Napa. That was the other one.
Yeah.
You're in Napa Valley College.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, college.
That's my thinking. It's a college one. It's not a full-time thing. Like, this is not the kind of deal that can work long-term, but it's a JUCO field, just like Laney is. It'll work for now. And that's really all you gotta ask for. That's my thinking.
Yeah.
Plus,
I can't overstate how thrown I am by the fact that they went to a community college.
Yeah.
That's really making it difficult for me to predict where they're going to go with this.
And see, here's the thing, too. No one's going to sit here and pretend like Laney's field isn't better than this, but, like, they're not that dissimilar. Clive Borman Field is the location, I believe.
I mean, it's the appropriate distance, at least, 4 or 5.
It's right in that general area. It's kind of in between the Bay Area and Sacramento. It fits on a lot of levels. Again, not long term. And, like, this is going to sound really shitty to say, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Oh,
no one's going to remember if Napa Valley fails, but they'll remember if Oakland fails. And if Oakland succeeds, no one cares if Napa failed.
Not wrong. Not wrong. wrong.
It's underhanded.
Huh.
It's very cutthroaty, but like, if you basically say, hey, we need you go to an ownership group, you say, do us a solid. Just put the team there. It just has to last 3 or so years until we can get other expansion in that general region. And then once that's the case, then you can fold it if you want, but you just got to eat one for 2 or 3 years. You'll know if Oakland works out in 2 to 3 years. And if it doesn't work out in that third year, you could just fold them all, call the whole West Coast thing a bust, and reorganize on your strategy. But
it was a great experience. We all really enjoyed the community. I think we did a lot of good things here. We look forward to hopefully returning to California someday in the near future, and then they don't come back again. Yeah, it's about
exactly. You have your out already built in, and so it's not great when you're essentially birthing a team for it to die, but it is a solution to the problem, and you avoid the whole River Cat issue, which anywhere that close to Sacramento is going to get killed by them. So you're in that nice little space there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off. I don't know. This is entirely my own thinking and entirely my own, kind of figuring. And I'm sure I'll have a couple people tell me I'm wrong. And hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm just throwing it out there. I could see Napa as a thing, and I understand that ideally you don't want to go ahead and throw a team out there just for them to fail later on. It's a bad overall look. But the risk reward of essentially making Oakland succeed is worth it, in my opinion.
Interesting. I don't know if I agree with it entirely.
I mean, obviously it's a bit out there, but I think there's some merit, and that's really all I was looking for. Because realistically, where else is it going to go? I mean, you could look at like summer wooden bat leagues in Northern California. You could do that, but how much better are their fields going to be? And who are you going to have to share with?
Also true. Yeah. Oof. Last thing on Pioneer League expansion, we've really beaten this to death. Yeah. I think really the real, we're probably over obsessing on California, because I think the real thing that they need to look at is Oregon moving forward.
That Maverick League?
If I'm honest, I think Maverick League teams, there's the Volcano Stadium in Salem.
Yeah.
You've got Corvallis also. I'm not sure what their ballpark looks like these days or how the team's doing. I'm just saying it's an interesting market if we're just listing the Oregon markets. And then additionally, dude, the Portland Pickles would do numbers. Like Portland could definitely support a team that is an Indy Ball team, and keep the current vibe, same energy, same chaos level, Indy Ball. I don't know if they necessarily need to go make that move if you're Portland, but if you can work out a deal, you can work out a deal, and you have a good fan base already. But that's where I would also start looking for doing Western expansion, because North California to Oregon is like nothing, especially for a normal Pioneer League drive. So just worth considering.
It is interesting. It is interesting.
Damn, there's like high capacity ballparks out in Oregon. Sorry, everyone I clicked on is like a lot more than you would think.
Huh. It is interesting
like
to see.
Jana Stadium, good lord.
I don't want to go down the Pickles thing I had, because I had a whole Pickles thing, which I'm not going to touch on right now. But I have thoughts on that.
Okay, another day. But yeah, man, like a lot of ballparks in Oregon. I would be surprised if they go fully with a Western pod expansion. I would be very surprised if there's not at least one Oregon team. That's all.
You're right. So I think we've talked enough about California, Oakland, and all the
that's on me.
Nah, it was a good conversation. Who knows how much we'll actually, survive to see the episode. So
fair enough. Good lord, it's gonna be a lot of scraps.
Yep. Last week we promised Baseball United talk. Do we still want to do that, or do we think we've done enough talking and we can put a pin in that for another week? Your call entirely. Because you'd be leading that charge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a ton of feelings on it. I could take it or leave it at this point. It was what I expected it to be. So,
A showcase of generally, roughly speaking, slightly above Atlantic League standard baseball that really in no way, shape, or form moved the needle and only really got the kind of attention it got because of the names it drew and the money it had attached to it.
Yeah, and everybody came back saying how great Dubai is, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. You should maybe, I don't know, let Kelsey Whitmore play. Why would that not work in Dubai? Why is that? Why would that not work? Anyway, I don't need to talk about it much. Yeah. I don't feel negative about it. I don't feel positive about it. The only one that kind of got me was there's a lot of guys over there who I have heard or have seen with some very hot takes about the Savannah Bananas, but they were more than willing to play with the golden ball that had double runs for home runs the moment they got some Dubai money. So fascinating.
For whatever reason, there's these little red specks on that golden ball too. I don't know what they came from, but they were just little red specks, you know? Oh, Lordy, just don't peek behind the curtain and it'll all be okay in Dubai.
It really is the like Oz, isn't it? It's so funny. Well, at least the news is pretty quick, if I'm honest.
Yeah, let's get to that news. I joked about it in the beginning of the show, but Steve Tassler, officially named commissioner of the Frontier League. Good. He's basically been doing the job anyway. So, at least he gets the title and the pay with it now. Not really sure the pay is really that much of an incentive. I can't imagine it's that big of an upgrade.
You can't imagine it is.
Congratulations, Steve. You go from making 45 plus benefits to 48 plus benefits. And we'll comp your travel.
I'm thinking, that's not a lot to add on it. Because he's been doing it for a while.
He's good at it.
Yeah.
And other,
it's a great call for the league, though.
Yeah, true.
I'll say that.
Plus, they're at a crossroads, too, where they're going to have to make some important decisions around expansion and countering, or they almost certainly will have to counter the American Association and Atlantic League soon. They're now stretched over two people's territories, and they got to stake their own claim. Now, it seems like they're choosing to go under the wave as opposed to over the wave, but it's still a decision you got to make and execute. So, interested to see what they do and how they execute.
Yeah, very. They have some options on the table, and we'll see if they take them.
Okay, on the other piece of news, no co-manager got his contract renewed. Gonzalez is back. No firm feelings one way or the other.
Now, as I pointed out before, when a manager gets re-signed or announced this late in the game, it's a potential sign that it wasn't, everyone's first option, either on one side or the other. But they're back together, and hopefully vibes are good there. I don't know. Yeah. I just talked a couple weeks ago about how Northern Colorado really averted a potential disaster, but how their season started just operations-wise, and hopefully, having some consistency in the clubhouse will help, and get a smooth season going, man. That's key.
Yeah. So either it's he did a really good job and was looking for a better opportunity, perhaps, or the team was like, you know what, go explore other opportunities, and they're like, you know what, like a couple having a kid just to keep it together, they said, let's give it a shot.
I like the idea of them putting a contract on the desk in front of him. Be like, yeah, we're happy to extend this offer to you. And he goes, awesome. Hey, I'll be right back. And then like a month and a half later comes back and he's like, all right, looks good, and just signs it.
Just I had my lawyers look it over, and they're not rushing to get to it. You know how lawyers are.
Yeah, they'll get a look at it by Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we'll get it back to you by Christmas.
I always wonder if there's a certain amount of people who get the Thanksgiving holiday, hang out with their family, and go, I could do another year.
The thing is, I could actually see that being a thing.
Oh, dude, for sure, man. I mean, and
there's
honestly,
no free
could
meals.
go the other way too. I was talking to a scout. He was with the Royals at the time, and he was like, "Yeah, retired." And I was like, "You're still here, though?" And he goes, "Yeah." About 3 months into the off season, my wife realized, "Oh, this is going to be all the time, then, huh?" And now I'm working again. I was like, "My God, dude."
Oh, my God. See, that's why Ryan's wife doesn't discourage us from doing this podcast. She's like, you know what? This maybe isn't a bad thing.
Man, the Virgin River Christmas specials came out. She's been fine.
Oh, thank God. I was concerned. I don't know what that is, but I was concerned it wouldn't come out this year, so that's good.
That's right. You're not 30. You have a night like me, hot date with the wife, have a couple of drinks, got a buzz on, came back, did a podcast while she watched Virgin River. Really embracing my 30s, man.
See, what's worse is all he was drinking was O'Doul's, so not good.
Oh, God damn. Yikes.
Oh, my mistake. You're a man of class. Heineken Zero.
Don't get me started. Different thing. Different conversation entirely.
All right. We have any other news we want to talk about, or did we canvas everything possible?
I got some transaction highlights to see us out.
All right, if you want to do that. Which also, just before you jump into that, I just want to throw one thing out.
Yeah.
For nearly 2 months now, we've been trying to find you a hockey team. We're going to put your feet to the fire on this soon.
I made some progress, so we can pick that up next week. I'm down to like 2 or 3.
Okay, can we at least get the 2 or 3 so I can cross them off? And we'll toss this right in the middle so that way everyone that normally would tune out, they now have to deal with it. Because screw them, they'll have to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm out on the Flyers for sure. That leaves me with the Predators, Panthers, or Sharks. So we're just looking at weird warm weather teams that are animals that could rip your face off. So I don't really know how to do that.
Okay, so we got a buy high, a regular price, and a buy low.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So we'll see. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine.
Spam Ryan's DMs with which team you want him to pick. Do it. He'll appreciate it.
Okay.
I speak for you. It's okay. It's my show.
So if people are dying to hear a little bit of on-field talk, I've got the big one stuck out to me. First Oakland player, which I think I might have accidentally broken that. They probably want to do some sort of press release for it, but it was on the transactions page. So that's on you. Oakland Ballers, they have had Dondre Hubbard approved as their franchise player, which is contract shenanigans for the Pioneer League. Don't worry about what franchise player means, but it means that he will most likely be playing for the Oakland Ballers this year, and that'll be the first player signed by them. Last year, he was a batting champ in the Pioneer League, slashed .395, .456, .623. Disgusting. He's one of those guys, though, it's interesting for him because he's really killed it in the Pioneer League, but he struggled in the American Association and the Atlantic League, and he's 28, 29. So my guy's got to kind of show that he can get it done and start positioning himself for some Atlantic League time or American Association time and show that he can be successful. So these are some big seasons for him coming up. So that's something to watch. An interesting move from Oakland. And it kind of shows that, it's interesting that I don't know how he got from Missoula to Oakland. I'm wondering if the league was involved in making sure Oakland got a nice start. You know what I mean?
Which,
but I'm sure.
I'm not against it. If that's the case, you really need this to work out for the benefit of everybody here. So,
be a team player. And I could see Missoula being a team player too.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised. I was I wonder if he has an Oakland connection. He does not. Oh, well.
Just he's a good player. Send him to Oakland.
Yeah. Other ones that caught my attention. Gateway did a bunch of their exercise contract options on guys. Big ones were Josh Lucas. He pitched well last year. Trevor. I never know the name, and I always feel like Teets is wrong. Tights? Teet? Yeah. No. But he's nasty. 2.91 ERA with Gateway last year. He's striking out over 1 an inning. Slider and changeover gross on him. They also got Pete Zimmerman locked in for
nice, big dad
contract option. I know. It's a good one. Zimmerman, 2 ends on that. Don't mess it up. Let's see what else. Zach Treese as well, going into his 9th Indy Ball season. He's, what's he got? I looked up. He has a 2.71 ERA in 351 career Frontier League innings, striking out 9.8 in his career. Played some ball in Germany and Australia back in the day too. He didn't play American Pro Ball between 2018, 2020. 2020. Yeah, 2023. He was he had an injury and it just sent him on this odyssey that she just came back from. So that's interesting. Other ones, Kyle Gadell, he got brought back by Gateway. Lincoln signed Wyatt Sparks. He struggled last year in high A and double A, but he was nasty in single A. And then he got cut and then looked good in a few innings with Lincoln. So that'll be interesting to see if he's a dog or he ends up in the Pioneer League. NoCo signed Nathan Draves. He's a good pitcher, put up good numbers considering he was pitching NoCo. Cleburne got Justin Kleinsword. He pitched well with Grand Junction last year. His only thing was he was giving up some contact, and a lot of that contact was finding its way out. I mean, not a ton.
Pioneer League, though.
Once you get him out of the Pioneer League, if he can bring it back down. But yeah, other than that, Washington Wild Things signed Caleb McNeely. He's good. Kyle White also to Washington. So there's some noteworthy ones. We're starting to get there a little bit. But for those of you who are really closely following the on-field action, that's kind of your updates and your headlines on the transaction side.
Couple also from the week also I saw here. Generally looking at other Gateway guys here, it looked like who did I see here? Gateway, Clint Freeman and Sam Gardner, too. Got options renewed. I also saw Jake Sanford back in Ottawa. That's a solid one. Earlier today, Dakota Phillips got dealt from Evansville to Fargo. So that's interesting there. And I don't think we mentioned it last week, because I'm pretty sure it was a last week thing, and not this week thing. But Jamari Profar got dealt to Lake Erie for Keenan Estero. Yeah. That seems like a pretty big trade that maybe should have mentioned. Yeah, we were really caught up in the Blaze Brothers thing when it came to the transactions last year. Yeah. Or last week, rather. Yeah, and Ben Lavorsi, catcher for Boise. I like him. I think he's a good addition, good keep around. So that was the other one I was thinking about. But yeah, there you go. That's your quick check-in. We'll get a little more on-field talk going as we continue through some things. But figured busy week off-field. We'll just give some highlights. It's always a busy week in the Bay Area. Can we just agree with one thing? Busy the Bay! So are we going to go with Grab the Bull by the Ballers, or are we going with California Dreaming? Because one's far more generic than the other. I like Grab the Bull by the Ballers. What are we talking about here? Okay. So we're in agreement. That's the title of this episode. Don't mess with the bull, you'll get the ballers. Here's that. Right in the ballers? I feel like this episode's over. I think it is too. Where can they find your transaction list? They can find it. It's a Google sheet that I try to update every day. I have it pinned to the top of my Twitter. It's also in the highlight and at the top of my Instagram profile. Both of those are Indy Ball Nation. Keep an eye out for a YouTube video this weekend, just talking about how the off-season's going and all that. And, yeah, Indy Ball Nation on basically whatever platform I'm on. Was that also where you went ahead and slammed the Kansas City Royals? I still got that as a draft tweet. I got some friends out that way. I'm asking a couple follow-up questions just to see if I get some inside info. All right. You're perfect. Completely forgot to do the digging on that one when the Oakland news was going down. See, that's why I'm here, to remind you to do the work that will then bear fruits on this show. So we can properly harass MLB. God bless. That's our mission here. Why won't a team hire me? I don't know. Maybe Oakland will hire you. Oh. Well, actually, talk about an organization I could fit in. Plus, I mean, the flights out there would be easier. Maybe. But, Indy Ball Pot on Twitter, Indy Ball Report everywhere else. There'll be off-season content starting soon, because now we're in December, so I should probably start pushing it out. So get ready for that. Yeah. Yeah. Busy week. And it never stops. Because remember, the ride never ends. It just slows down and speeds up. And until the next... I feel like we probably are going to get some new people listening to this episode. Oh, no. This was the wrong time to realize that. Remember, kids, now's the perfect time to jump on. You can buy low on this show here. You should go back to when we were trashing other organizations like Gastonia and Lexington, who we had a whole Twitter and apparently Facebook group discussion on why Lexington wants to sell, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but they bought something that they thought was worth more than it was and realized, oh wait, this is like buying a boat. And now they need to go sell the boat. Yeah, they were not aware of the full situation. Yeah, so that's the long and short. We'll go into more detail. Oh, wow, I almost forgot the most important thing. The Q&A. I need to promote the Q&A. Otherwise, you won't have questions to do it, which will make it kind of a problem, won't it? Yeah.
Sure.
Q&A episode, December 30th. That's when it's going to be released. Collectively agree questions in ideally before Christmas, but worst comes to worst, like 27, 28.
I don't need much prep time. I'm just winging it.
There you go, guys. So get it in by the 28th, because that's when we're probably going to wind up recording it. So you got, let's see, this comes out on the 2nd. You got about 25 days to get your questions in. Questions that require work, get them in earlier. You guys know the drill. This is like the 4th or 5th time we've done this. Ironically, though, normally it's a new person every time. Maybe that says something about me. No, I'm not that introspective.
Oh,
But
it's the co-hosts who are wrong.
Clearly. If they weren't wrong, then they wouldn't be co-hosts. They'd just be a host. But because they're co, they must be lesser.
Means second place.
Exactly, which just means first loser.
Village idiot.
Exactly. It just means like the guy that gets my drink. And none of this Heineken Zero bullshit.
Oof.
But
how bad's your day going? Anyway.
Really. So yeah, get the questions in by say, I don't know, Christmas Day. There you go. That's all there really is to it. So Q&A, December 30th. Send questions. Forms of contact on the website, Indy Ball Report Pod, or just DM me or Ryan and we will write it down and get to it. So yeah. Until next week, don't forget to play ball.